Hey guys, in this video I wanted to address the topic of chronic inflammation and why it's so important for us living with multiple sclerosis to understand how it works. And in turn, this allows us to understand what we can do to try to keep it under control. If you're interested in this topic, please stay tuned. So what is chronic inflammation? Inflammation is when there's the release of cytokines, which is the immune system's response to whenever there's an attack, whenever there's a possibility of an infection entering the body. For example, that's what happens when you get a cut on your finger and you see that the finger turns red around the cut. That is your immune system fighting against possible infections entering the body. So it's a wonderful thing actually that we have these immune responses. However, when you live with multiple sclerosis, you want to keep it down because ultimately, what is it that attacks our brain? It's our own immune system, so we want to keep it under control. When there's inflammation, our immune system releases all these molecules that are the ones that attack our brain. So by keeping the inflammation down, you attempt to control the release of these potentially malign molecules that are attacking us. So when there's chronic inflammation, this is what causes disease activity, what we know generally as disease activity, and that is the appearance of new lesions, the reduction of nerve signals, and the appearance of all the symptoms that we associate with multiple sclerosis, such as fatigue, disease progression, and all of those that we are way too familiar with. So maintaining these consistently high inflammation levels is what ultimately leads to disease activity, to disease progression, and fatigue, and all the difficulties that we experience in our daily lives. Now, what kind of a role does diet play in inflammation? Well, guys, a huge role, because some of the foods that you consume can either raise inflammation levels or it can keep them under control. So there are types of foods that are more likely to increase inflammation levels, these being the processed foods, sugary foods. If you have lactose sensitivity, then dairy foods, and similarly with gluten-containing foods, if you are gluten intolerant, that will also cause inflammation. So the idea behind eliminating these foods from your diet is ultimately, as I said before, to keep those inflammation levels as much under control as possible. Because why? When inflammation rises, so does disease activity. So you want to keep the inflammation levels down on a daily constant basis so as to keep the disease activity as low as possible. And that is the key to maintaining a steady, healthy life with multiple sclerosis. So the idea behind maintaining a healthy diet is namely that if you include as many whole foods, non-processed foods, you can get a lot of benefits. For example, if you include leafy greens in your diet, these contain a lot of antioxidants. Also, including many colorful vegetables, like all the colors of the rainbow, make sure your plate is full of beautiful colors. These can lower oxidative stress. As for omega-3s, these that you would obtain from fatty fish, from avocado, from nuts, what they do is that they lower the inflammatory markers, which is a very important thing to maintain in check. And then there is the other topic that may not be as popular with everyone. This is, of course, only your choice. If you're against the idea, you're free not to consume any of those. But if you have grass-fed meat, this will reduce the intake of inflammatory fatty acids, which is also very important. I mean, that being said, you can fully reduce it by eliminating animal products from your diet, and that's entirely up to you. As for fermented foods, also an important thing to include in your diet because it drastically improves your gut health. So maintaining all these things under control, all these things in check, what it's going to do in the end is that it's going to keep your MS symptoms under control. Symptoms such as fatigue, brain fog, relapse activity, disease progression, all of these can be maintained at bay by maintaining your inflammation levels down and under control without those unhealthy spikes that, as we saw before, are the ones that release the cytokines that are the ones that ultimately end up attacking your brain. So an anti-inflammatory diet, what it does is that it supports your gut microbiome, strengthens your gut lining, reduce immune hyperactivity, and contributes to a calmer nervous system. All very important points for us to maintain a good health with multiple sclerosis. Now, to turn to a little bit, the diet that I'm proposing will support your brain health, and with a special focus on the mitochondria. These are small little beings in your cell that are like the powerhouses of your brain. Imagine them as like little batteries that are actually feeding your brain activity. Well, those are the ones who are suffering from all the inflammation. So you want to make sure to keep the inflammation levels down so that the mitochondria can do their job properly. This will allow for the mitochondria to repair themselves and allow you to maintain a more constant energy level throughout your day. This is, of course, one of the beliefs behind the Wahls Protocol, proven beliefs, but there's also, like, I'm not only gonna promote the Wahls Protocol because I've been doing it and I'm finding it beneficial to me, but there are also other types of diet that can support this mitochondrial repair. These diets will be the Mediterranean diet and the paleo diet. So check it out and see whatever fits you best. So this was briefly an explanation of why keeping the inflammation levels down is super important for us living to multiple sclerosis. And of course, perfection is not the goal here. We want to maintain a healthy environment for our brain cells, for our mitochondria to repair themselves and to function optimally. And you can do that by maintaining low inflammation levels with an anti-inflammatory diet. So that is my suggestion from me to you. Let me know if you have ever practiced any of those. If you have found any benefits from these diets, please leave it in the comment below. I'm looking forward to reading your experiences with them. And in the meantime, guys, I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.